Hey guys, welcome to my first virtual masterclass of 2022. So we're going to be covering cut crease, textured skin, and how to make textured skin look more smooth and flawless. So let's get into it. So if you don't know, before I get anything started, I always start out with a beverage for my client because we can't have them thirsty and we are creating an experience. For skin prep, I'm starting out with the Pixie Retinol Tonic. This is a smoothing toner which contains peptides and jasmine flower, which is going to help firm and balance the skin. After the toner, I'm spraying her face with the Pixie Makeup Fixing Mist all over. It contains rose water and green tea. Green tea is a powerful antioxidant, and the rose water is going to help soothe and hydrate her skin. For primer, I'm using the Tatcha Silk Canvas Primer. I wanted to use this one because it's nice and thick, which means it's going to create a nice barrier between her skin and the makeup. And that's really what we want. She has textured skin, so I got to do everything that we can to create as much of a smooth base as possible. And it's expensive, so I know it's gonna get the job done. So I really take my time with skin prep and I really try to show the skin as much love as possible because, a good base sets the tone for the rest of the makeup application. And I also pull the primer down past the jawline onto the neck because I do pull foundation past the jawline and onto the neck. So that way it's hard to tell where the foundation begins and ends. After skin prep, I usually start on brows. I'm using the Bloodline Beauty brow pencil in the shade medium brown. And all I'm really doing is just outlining the base of the brow, the top of the brow, to really give it that defining shape. And then once that's done, I'm going in to the center of the brow and just, doing hair-like strokes. I am gently filling it in. So that way you don't have like this overly harsh drawn on brow. And I am no stranger to the brow spoolie. I definitely make sure I flip that pencil over and use that spoolie on the other side to help just brush the product through and to help it look more natural. To give the brow a little bit more definition, I'm going in with my Ruby Kisses brow powder. And I'm using that middle shade at the beginning of the brow. And then I'm using that darker shade on the tail end of the brow to just help give it more definition. And I like using powder after pencils because powders tend to help soften the brow up a little bit, and I really like that soft brow look. To carve out the brows and give them a clean look, I am going in with the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Cool Tan, and the brush I'm using is actually a crown brush. It's their Deluxe Camouflage Lip Brush, and the end that I'm using is actually the lip brush. I like using this side when it comes to carving out brows because the brush is smaller, and yeah. But I love this brush. I highly recommend it, and it's affordable. So once I'm done blending out that concealer, I just take whatever leftover product is on the blending brush and I use it to just tap over the beginning of the brow. And I do this before going over the brows with the spoolie because the last thing we need is blocky, boxy brows. I do not like for my brows to be all one color, so I definitely put an emphasis on lightening the beginning of the brows. Once the brows are all done, I like to go in all over the lid with concealer because the concealer acts as the eyeshadow base. And I'm using the same crown brush that I used to carve out the brows to apply the concealer all over the eyelid. To blend the concealer in, I am using this Real Techniques setting brush. It's nice and it's fluffy and it does a really good job at just blending the concealer into the skin. For eyeshadow, I'm using the Urban Decay Naked Petite Heat palette, and I'm starting out with the transition shade, and for that I am using the third shadow in, which is Hot Spell. For this step, I'm using the Crown C529 brush. It is a pro brush, but I love using this brush because it just does the blending for you because it's so big, so I love it. Using that same Urban Decay Naked Petite Heat palette, I am going in with the shade Wild Thing, and I am using that as her crease shade. The brush I'm using for this step is the Crown C511 brush. Again, it's a pro brush. I just personally think all of the pro brushes from Crown Brush, those are just their best brushes. But as you can see, the brush is a lot smaller than the jumbo brush, so this brush is great for packing on color and concentrating it in one specific area like the crease. So when it comes to blending brushes, just kind of remember it as the bigger the brush, the better it is for larger spaces. It'll allow you to build up the color slowly and gradually, and the smaller the brush is better for concentrating color in specific areas and packing on color and building up color rather quickly. The next shade from the Urban Decay Petite Heat palette that I'm going in with is Heist. It's a slightly darker brown than Wild Thing, and I'm doing this because I'm just trying to build up the brown shadows on her eyelid. The last shadow I'm taking from the Urban Decay Naked Petite Heat palette is the shade Strike, and it is the darkest brown in the palette, and I am focusing that on the outer V of her eyelids. So what you'll notice that I'm doing here repeatedly is I am going in with each color and I'm packing it on. And then I'm going in with a blending brush with no product on it, which in this case is my Color du Jour number 20 blending brush. And I'm diffusing the edges of that shadow I just packed on. And that's really my secret to a flawless eye blend, is to pack on the color and then go in and diffuse those harsh lines.
Which one do you think? I'm wearing black or white, so I feel like this would go with. Oh, okay, so hold it back up again. Oh, this is tough. Well, both of you are really pretty. You know what? Maybe let's go with the gold one. Okay.
I always try to involve my clients some way, somehow in the creative process, whether it's picking out the lash or it's picking out the lid color. I feel like when it comes to makeup, makeup is no different than going to the nail salon and picking your nail polish color, or going to the hair salon and picking your new hair color. It makes the experience so much funner and memorable when you actually have some sort of input in the creative process. So I just feel like makeup's no different than like getting your nails done or getting your hair done in terms of like picking out what it is that you want. So what you see me doing here now is cutting the crease, and I am using the LA Girl Pro Conceal Yellow Corrector to do this, and I'm using the Deluxe Camouflage Lip Brush by Crown Brush to do this step. When it comes to cutting creases, the key to having a really good cut crease is all in the brush. You need a brush that's thin, that is precise, so that way your cut crease can be precise. And you also need a steady hand. So what you see me doing now is applying setting powder to the cut crease using my Real Techniques setting brush. And I'm doing this because setting the cut crease is going to help allow the eyeshadow to apply a lot smoother versus applying the shadow to just wet concealer. For her lid color, I'm going in with the Saturn Shade palette by Ditto Cosmetics in the shade Dion. And it's a really pretty goldish color. And I am packing that color onto her lid. To add a little bit more smokiness and to soften the line of that outer cut crease, I'm going in with this middle shade here from the Mented Everyday Eyeshadow palette and my BH Cosmetics blending brush, and I am just tapping that color onto the outer V, but I'm also tapping it on the outer line of that cut crease as well to kind of just blend everything together. So that way the outer part of the cut crease doesn't have this sharp line. It looks more blended and seamless. To line her eyelids, I'm using my CoverGirl liquid eyeliner in the shade 320, and I'm using a liner brush from Crown Brush to do this. And if you look closely, you'll see I'm slightly lifting her eyelid up as I apply the liner. I like to do this because it allows me to get the product as close to the lash line as possible, and it also helps give me a very precise line as well. You just have more control applying the product when the eyelid isn't so bunched up together. If you just stretch it out a little bit, it gives you a lot more control when applying the product.
I like it.
Before we get started on the face, I am going in with my Neutrogena makeup remover wipe to just clean up all of the fallout underneath the eyes that was left behind by all the eyeshadow. I've used plenty of makeup remover wipes in my lifetime, and the Neutrogena original ones are definitely the best. Since we just wiped all that fallout away, I'm going in with my Urban Decay All Nighter Face Primer. This is a primer that smooths and perfects. At this point, you see the common theme, right? My client has textured skin, so I'm really trying to stick with base products that are smoothing because we want a flawless makeup application. For foundation, I'm using the MAC Studio Fix Fluid in the shade NC47, and I'm mixing 1 drop of bio oil in it before I apply it to the skin. I do this because MAC Studio Fix Fluid, it can be heavy on the skin, and if you have sensitive skin like me, it can definitely cause breakouts. So the bio oil helps with all of those issues. So one, it helps break down the product. That way it's not so cakey, and it helps the product look more like skin. And it also helps prevent breakouts. This is something that I've learned personally through trial and error, because again, I have sensitive skin, and I remember when I first started using Studio Fix Fluid, I loved the coverage, but I quickly realized it was not a foundation that I could wear every single day, at least not by itself. So that's when I discovered bio oil, and I started putting a drop of it in there, and it definitely helped prevent breakouts. And the MAC Studio Fix Fluid Foundation is generally what I use on my clients like 90% of the time. And I have clients who have even more sensitive skin than I do. They're my regulars. And this bio oil technique absolutely works. And so that's why I always share it when I teach my classes, because I'm going to keep sharing it until I can't share it anymore. This is a step that is a must if you don't want to deal with any breakouts, and also if you don't like for your foundation to be super heavy. If you like for it to look more like skin, definitely include a drop of bio oil in it. You'll thank me later. So my technique when applying foundation is to use the brush to basically get the product all over the skin. And then I go in directly after with my damp beauty blender, and I just bounce the blender onto the skin. This helps do one of two things. One helps get rid of any streaks that the foundation brush may have left behind. So it gives you this sort of streak-free application, and it also helps sheer out the product. So we know that MAC Studio Fix Fluid is this full coverage foundation, and going in with the damp beauty blender on top of it is going to help sheer the product out so it looks less cakey, and it just really helps press the product into the skin and just helps it become almost like one with the skin. So I would actually skip this step if you prefer more of a fuller, cakier looking makeup application. Some people like that, and there's no judgment. Some people like the cake face. So if you do, I wouldn't recommend going in with the beauty blender. I would just stick to a brush. But if you like for your applications to look more skin-like, more natural glam, I guess, definitely go in with a damp beauty blender. And if you go in with the damp beauty blender, make sure you are just bouncing it on the skin. Do not rub it on the skin. That will create a disaster. Okay? I don't ever want to see you all doing that. Just bounce it. It'll do the work for you. It will blend the product out for you. I promise. For concealer, I'm starting out with the LA Girl Pro Conceal in the shade Cool Tan. And this is going to give the skin just a slight lift. And if you're comfortable with this level of brightness, you can definitely keep it that way. But I'm definitely going to go in later with a lighter concealer on top of this just to add a little bit more brightness. So definitely tweak it to your liking. Me adding the extra brightness later is so not necessary, but it's a personal preference. But as you can see, for this concealer, I am using that damp beauty blender to blend everything out. And I'm just allowing the beauty blender to do the work for me. I'm literally just tapping the beauty blender back and forth on her skin, and it's gradually blending it out. Now, majority of the product is going to be on the pointier side because that's the side of the blender that we're using to blend everything out. So when it comes to like the edges of that concealer and everything, you will notice me flipping the beauty blender to its butt and using that side to blend out the edges because there's little to no product on that side. And so unlike the pointier side where all of the product is, instead of adding more product, the butt of that beauty blender is going to allow us to kind of bridge the gap between the concealer and the foundation because there's little to no product there. So it's not going to continue spreading product. It's just going to blend it out even further. So don't be afraid to use both sides of the beauty blender. I definitely do, and I always encourage my students to do the same thing. I also wanted to mention the strategy behind my concealer placement. So in terms of the nose area, you'll see that I actually brought the concealer into the nose, like almost to the center before I stopped it. And I do this because if you bring the concealer into the nose, the closer you bring that concealer line towards the center of the nose, the slimmer the nose will appear. So if you want to give yourself a fake, temporary nose job, there's no need to go to a surgeon. There's no need to pay all this money to a surgeon. You can do it with concealer. just add a lighter concealer to your nose. And just remember, depending on how slim you want your nose, like if you want it Michael Jackson style, bring it as close to the center of that nose as possible. Okay, but if you want it to look not too over the top, then I would say bring it in to that inner nostril. So where the inner nostrils begin, I would say that's probably as far in as you would want to bring in the concealer line. Anything over that, you're pushing Michael Jackson. So totally up to you. Again, it's all about preference. But yes, this is a great technique to use if you want your nose to appear slimmer. To add a little bit more brightness underneath her eyes, I am using my Kevyn Aucoin Skin Enhancer in the shade SX10. This is an absolute holy grail for me. And before blending it out with the Beauty Blender, I am spraying it with the Pixie spray that we used at the very beginning of this video. And I'm spraying it because this is a very thick product. When I tell you a little goes a long way, that's why the packaging is so small. A little goes a long way. And it's great because this product can be used as foundation, but it can also be used as concealer, which is so nice. Whenever I use it as foundation, I add a drop of bio oil to it just so it's not super thick. And then when I use it as concealer, I really just use a little. And as you can see, a little goes a long way. I'm not even applying it underneath her entire eye. I applied it just to the inner corner and the outer corner underneath her eye. And look at how the product just spreads. It's so beautiful. So highly, highly recommend. And I'm just using the leftover product in the tip of that blender and going down the center of her nose, her forehead, her chin, all the areas that I want highlighted. Those are the places that I'm going over with the blender. And look at how beautiful it is. Like I said, the LA Girl Pro Concealer was fine, but that Kevyn Aucoin really just upped the look for sure. For contour, I'm using the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo Concealer in the shade Rich Chocolate. I'm applying this to her forehead, her cheeks, and the purpose of contour is just to add warmth to the skin, to bring color back. Yeah, I mean, we're all not one flat color. So the purpose of foundation is to help balance everything out, make you one shade. The highlighting is meant to bring light to your face, highlight certain areas of the face. And then the contour is meant to warm up the face. And so the idea is that you should think of like where sun would naturally hit the skin. So obviously the top of the forehead and things like that. You can also think of it as putting it in places where you would want to add shadows or, you know, sculpt certain things. So I mean, I put it on her forehead because I want to create a shadow. I want to create warmth. I put it on her cheeks because I want to sculpt her cheeks a little bit because I want them to appear higher than what they actually are. And as I'm applying the contour, you'll notice that I'm doing more stippling because she has textured skin. And so we don't want to disrupt the product too much. So I'm mostly just patting the contour into her skin when we get to the cheek part because we don't want to disrupt the product too much because she does have textured skin and our main goal is to have this flawless, smooth application. So stippling the products in and patting them in when you're working on textured skin is going to be your best bet. To set her highlight and contour, I'm using my Japanesque Velvet Touch finishing powder. This is a pressed finishing powder and it is honestly the best one that I've personally ever used. So it's definitely a holy grail for me. And I am using my Real Techniques setting brush to do this. I love this little fluffy brush because it can really get into those hard to reach areas like the sides of the nose, underneath the eyes, close to the lash line. So I'm just setting everything, and look at how good it looks. I love this powder. And I always go over the concealer underneath the eye, especially the concealer close to the lower lash line, because that's where creasing tends to happen. And the last thing you want to do is set an area that has creasing in it, because once you set it, it's going to stay that way. So that's why I always blend out that under eye area one last time before going in with the setting powder.
You're just so talented. Like, I'm just looking.
Oh, thank you.
I could never. The girls could never know.
Just your mind, just years of doing this, trial and error.
To bake, I am using the Airspun powder in the shade Suntan, and I'm using my beauty blender to do this. Now, I will say baking is a step that I do not feel is necessary for every single client. It definitely depends on many factors such as skin type, age. So, I mean, if you have a client that's dry, it's not going to be necessary for you to bake on them. If you have a more mature client who has, wrinkles under the eyes, it is not going to be necessary to bake on them. So I try to really only bake on my clients that are more oily or are younger. To set her foundation, I'm using the BH Studio Pro Powder in the shade 240. This is a buildable coverage, and this is the only foundation powder I've ever used on my clients, with the occasional Maybelline here and there, but this is like my go-to in terms of foundation powder for my clients. If I had to compare it to a higher end powder, I would compare it to the MAC Studio Fix powder, just in terms of how good it looks, the coverage, and it's a fourth of the cost, if that. So pretty sure they're gonna be sold out now. But I mean, I gotta put you guys on. I mean, it really is a good powder. So after a couple minutes, I'm going in to dust away that Airspun powder that we baked with. You don't want the under eye area baking for too long, because if you do, it can really dry out the under eye area. Next, I'm going in with the Maybelline Fit Me powder in the shade 334, and this powder is going to act as a bridge between that Airspun powder that we baked with and the BH Cosmetics foundation powder. You can see based off of where I'm placing the powder, it's definitely helping bridge the gap, and it's helping make it look very seamless. To set her contour, I'm going in with my Minted X Ashley Blaine Contour and Highlight Duo in the shade Season 1. And so I'm just using that bronzing powder to go over all of the areas that we applied her contour. So this is just going to, one, set the contour, but it's also just going to add like that additional warmth to the skin that we all love. And I'm using the same technique as before, which is when it comes to the cheek area, we are not doing too many circular motions. We're more so stippling and just pressing the product into the skin. And we do that because she has textured skin, and that's the best method to go with when you are working on textured skin. And before applying the highlight, which is also from the Minted Cosmetics Season 1 Highlighter Contour Duo, I like to spray the skin first before applying the highlight, because doing so really helps make the highlight pop even more. And for me, I just feel like for this particular look, because it is like a full glam look, if you're gonna apply some highlight, we might as well make it pop. We might as well make it pop, right? And then to add a little bit more oomph, I am going in with the Maybelline highlight in the shade Molten Gold. And this is probably their most popular highlight, but for good reason. It just really helps add that oomph that, you know, I'm looking for this particular look. For mascara, I'm going in with the OG Maybelline Great Lash mascara. This is the Black is Black version, but do you guys remember the original one, the pink and green packaging one? When I tell you everybody had that, oh my gosh. Now, for her lashes, I am applying the mascara with a disposable spoolie. I just want to say this, if you are ever getting your makeup done and the makeup artist is going in directly with the applicator that comes with the packaging, run for the heels, okay? It's not sanitary. You should not be doing that. The only time you should ever be using the personal applicator from a mascara is if it's your own and you're applying it to yourself. That is the only exception. If you are working on clients, you need disposable wands, okay? Otherwise, you are begging for clients to have itchy eyes, breakouts, and it's just not good. To line her lips, I am going in with the Mented Cosmetics Dope Lip Pencil. Mented Cosmetics is one of my favorite Black-owned makeup brands. I love the founders of the company. I love their origin story. And they truly do make their products for everyone, but it's specifically made with women of color in mind, which I love. Because we know majority of the beauty industry caters to Caucasian women. And so it's nice when you find brands that are not only inclusive, but they are Black owned. They look like you. So I just love them. For lashes, I am going in with the Bloodline Beauty TP Love Lashes. One of my favorite lash brands ever. Her lashes just never fail me. Now, I will say she no longer carries TP Love lashes, but she has a style that is very similar to TP Love and, in my opinion, better looking, and it's called Sunrise. So definitely check out her website in the description box below. Sunrise is that girl, okay? For lipstick, I'm going in with my MAC Try Again lipstick. This is from their exclusive Aaliyah collection. This shade is a beautiful nude, and I'm using this as the overall base for the lips. If you've been watching my videos long enough, or if you've seen me do makeup long enough, then you know that I never do just one lip color. I always mix, I always customize. But yeah, this is gonna be our base color for the lips. To add a little bit of contrast, we're going to go in with a lighter nude, and for this I am enlisting the help of my MAC Myth lipstick. This is an OG, okay? So I am just focusing on applying this color in the center, and we're going to carefully blend it out, but look at how beautiful. And this is why I love mixing my lipsticks. For lip gloss, I'm going in with my MAC Viva Glam gloss. This is their Ariana Grande edition, but it's just a really pretty nudie pink. It's gorgeous. To brighten up the tear ducts, I'm going in with my Pixie Liquid Fairy Lights in the shade Crystalline. And this is really like my secret weapon. This is what I do majority of the time to finish off my looks. I just feel like not only does it brighten the tear ducts and open up the eyes a bit, but it just kind of brings the overall look together for me. I think it's beautiful. So yeah, I love this product. To add a little bit of color to the cheeks, I'm going in with my MAC See Me Hear Me blush. This is from their Aquatic collection, so it is no longer sold, but it is my favorite blush. And when I run out, I don't know what I'm gonna do because it's been my favorite blush for years. But yeah. At this point, I am just doing all of my finishing touches, like adding mascara to the lower lash line, adding any extra powder for extra coverage, whether it's under the eyes or other areas of the face, adding a little bit of eyeshadow to the lower lash line. I typically add like some sort of liner to the waterline, but in this case, I just didn't feel like it was 100% necessary. So I mean, that's part of being a makeup artist. You really just got to take a look at your canvas and assess what's needed and what's not. I mean, you're in complete control. So yeah, I did not go with any eyeliner in the waterline, but I think it looks great despite that. So to completely finish this look off, I'm going in with my Monica Dar setting spray, and I'm spraying that all over her skin. It smells great. My client looks great, and now I'm just gonna take some photos for Instagram for my story. As you can see, when I take my photos, I take the photo the regular way, and then I definitely lower the exposure a little bit so it looks more true to life. And yeah.
Oh, it's been so long since I've done a Cut-Crease. It looks so good.
I really hope you guys enjoyed this makeup tutorial and you actually learned something from it. If there's anything that I didn't cover, feel free to leave a comment down below in the comment section, and I promise I will answer any question that you have. This is a community. Each one teach one. Thank you for watching, and God bless.